Right. Afternoon, everyone, and good morning and good evening to people from US, Canada, and people in Kenya and India who have joined as well. Welcome to Umesh Shah Presents Sunday Life and Learn Talks. My name is Umesh Shah. Today's presenter is Aziz Velji, who will be talking to us about the science and the power of meditation. As a student, teacher, and author, Aziz's background encompasses specialized areas of study and continuing education in philosophy, psychology, meditation practices, quantum physics, brain enhancement, neuroscience, and lucid dreaming. Aziz Velji is the author of Calm Brain and Calm Brain Powerful Mind: Abolish Stress to Unleash Your True Potential. This book has got a 5-star rating on Amazon. Aziz, without taking more time, I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm just going to minimize this. Okay. So let me just get myself out of here. So, okay. Umesh, thank you so much for getting me on your show. And thank you everyone for joining us. Okay. When my daughter was young, must be about when she was about 9 or 10 years old, she came home with a school assignment, and the assignment was the teacher had asked her or the class to write down everything about themselves in terms of what who they were, what they liked, disliked, everything else. So when she came home, she asked me to give her a hand. And so what we did, I asked her to take a piece of paper in the center, put her name down, and then draw arrows emanating from the center outwards. And then just put down everything that she could think of herself, of what she liked, disliked, who she was, and all that. So she started with saying, I'm a daughter, I'm a cousin, I'm this, I'm that. I like ice cream, I hate spiders, and all that stuff. And if I can recall, she managed to fill in about a page or two of that big sheet of paper. Today, if I ask her to do the same exercise, I'm sure she'll be able to fill a book. And the book, she'll be able to. She's in her 30s now, so she'll be able to say she's married, she's mother, she's all that stuff. Okay. So, and as she gets older, the book's going to get thicker. So, this book is what she puts down. She defines her. So that this assignment, the school assignment, tells us a number of things. One is that it is space and time dependent. What do I mean by that? If she was born just down a couple of doors from where I lived, or down the street, or a different city, different country, that book that she would be able to fill out would be completely different, because it'd be dependent on where she's born, what part of the world she's born in. This is different from what she came into the world with, her essence. Okay, and so the problem becomes is that as we get, and so this is a book that we create, all of us do, okay? And sometimes we forget who we are, and we identify ourselves with the book, with the conditioning, with all the things that have happened to us in this world. And everything is interrelated and dependent on her name, or on our name, the what we call I. So everything we identify with that I. Okay. And now, all this thing, whatever we write, you should put down on the piece of paper, or the words, the same way, this is something that we do in our mind. It's a something virtual we create, okay? And all these things are labels that we put in our mind to define us. One of the problem becomes is that we become too identified with our labels. And so we forget who we are. And the purpose of meditation is to make us remember who we are. So it would pierce through this conditioning and tell us, and basically bring our attention to our true nature. And so this is what we're going to be talking about today. So what we're going to cover is the power and the problem of our conditioning. We'll talk about mindfulness. We'll talk about the science and the power of meditation. And then I'll leave you with 3 simple practices, and then we'll have Q&A. So in terms of conditioning, or what I call pre-programming, what do I mean by conditioning? How does our programming begin? How does it become our reality? How conditioned or dead are we? Why is it a problem? And what is preventing us from getting out of our conditioning? And then I'll talk about what's the solution. So what do I mean by conditioning? I briefly mentioned earlier about the book that we write when we come into this world and everything else. So it is our self-memorized framework of everything that we believe, our habits, attitudes, everything that we experience about behavior and how we behave. This accumulated physiological and psychological content resides in our subconscious brain. This becomes the center of our personality. It's the mask that we wear, and the mask or the ego self, and it conditions the way we view the world, because now we see the world based on what we have learned when we were young. Since I'll be talking quite a bit about the brain, I thought I would just reintroduce something that I talked about before. And in case you have missed, let me show you a very simple way to look at the brain. Okay? If you hold out your hand like this in front of you, tuck your thumb inside and fold your fingers on top of your 4 fingers touching the palm. Okay? This is the hand model of the brain. So this is the way the brain stays in your head. This part is just behind the forehead. Okay? So let's open the hand and go through each one of the parts. There are 4 sub-brains that we have. Okay? The first is the alligator brain. This is our survival brain. This is this part of the brain. It connects, the brainstem connects to the spinal cord. Okay? This is the one at the back here. So this is this alligator brain. It is the oldest, it's the simplest, and the most powerful. Okay? It's the first one to develop over 400 million years ago. It is subconscious, meaning it can't think, it can't evaluate things. Okay? So it just reacts instinctively and automatically. It is the home of our survival instincts, automatic life functions. What do I mean by that? It controls our breathing, it controls our blood pressure, it controls the blood circulation. Because if we were going to control that, we would be dead even before we start trying to control it. So it goes on subconsciously. It's controlled by that. It's here also where our conditioning and our programming resides. Okay, and I'll talk more about it. It's motivated by fear and desire, and its basic purpose is survival and continuity. That's exactly what it wants to do. So that's the first sub-brain that we have. The second brain to develop was the lion brain, or the emotional brain. This is the smallest brain. Again, it is subconscious, can't think. But it is the home of our emotions and the early warning system, the amygdala. Emotions came into being to help us solve problems before thinking came in. Okay, so we are emotional beings who think, and not thinking beings who are emotional. The early warning system is something that we sense around us to see if there's a threat. And if there's a threat, it warns us, and then we can go into a survival mode. It's motivated by pleasure and pain. And this is something that you might have probably seen or heard of. It's used in a lot of business organizations, the carrot and stick approach. So this is give you some pleasure, to give you some pain, so that you're motivated to do some other stuff. Purpose is emotional, and it's social. And this came about 200 million years ago. The third brain that came in was the conscious brain, starting from the back hand up here all the way up here. And it developed in two stages. It's largest, highly developed, and it's complex. And it's conscious, not subconscious. It can think. It's divided into the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, the left and the right. It developed in stages. The first, the monkey brain, and then came the human brain at the bottom up here. And this brain came about 3 million years ago. It's the largest, all the way from the back, all the way to the front up here. It is conscious. It is the home of the ego, the one we talked about, the mind chatter and the intellect. It's motivated by the ego and logical reasoning. That's why it is a rational brain. Its purpose is intellectual. The last brain to develop is the human brain. So it is the fingertips up here which touch the palm. It's the smallest, but it's most evolved, and it's very conscious. Okay. Here is our inner world and higher cognitive functions. The control, the attention, creativity, insight. Everything comes. Its station is based here, and it's motivated by our true self, the essence. Its purpose is to integrate all the subbrains to make us self-aware and move us beyond the ego, okay, and lift us out of a survival living. So that's the purpose. And this is how the four brains sit in our head. Yeah. So here is the alligator brain at the bottom up here. It's connected to the brainstem, is connected to the spinal cord. It's subconscious, as we talked about. It's based on fear, aggression, survival, and autopilot. Here is the emotional brain, the lion brain. Okay, subconscious again, and we talked about that. And here is the monkey brain, the intellectual brain. And here behind the forehead is our self-aware brain. So how does our programming begin? The first 5 to 7 years of our life are critical, okay? Because when a child is born, in the first few years, the alligator brain and the lion and the emotional brain are functional and operational, which means that, and these are still developing, the monkey and the human brain. So they spend their the first few years of their life in the subconscious realm. What does that mean? It means that all information transfer is one way. It's from outside, it goes in. They have no capacity to evaluate whatever they're learning. And how do they learn? So when they're born, and if you notice the babies, they always look at the face. They're looking at your eyes. They're looking at your facial expressions. They're looking at the tone of the voice. And that's how they learn. They have mirror neurons, which mirror everything that we do. And so this is really critical, because everything that they learn up here, they use later in life. So for example, if they see a disconnect, if they see you do one thing, you say one thing and do something else, the child just picks it up, doesn't realize it's a disconnect. It just says, this is the way to go and interact with the world. Or if you take your child who is 4 or 5 years old to a store and you tell her, and she wants something, a toy or candy or whatever, and straight away you tell her, no, you can't have it. And the child keeps saying, why? And you say, because you don't deserve it, because you misbehaved. Now a 4 or 5-year-old child has no concept of cause and effect. Okay, all she knows is I misbehaved, and I don't deserve it. This thing stays with her. So later on in life, when she's worked hard to get this position in the company or whatever, she's reaching for the job, and then her mind tells her, you don't deserve it. And so she does everything possible to sabotage that, because in her mind, she doesn't deserve it. Okay? Or if she does get it, then she'll be run by this imposter syndrome, saying that it's she didn't deserve it but still got it. Okay. Conditioning, and this is how the conditioning works. So so the first, 75 to 80% of our conditioning is already set by the time we are 7 or 8 years old, mostly by before even 6 years old. So it's how you interact with the world. Basically, you're being told what to do. The remaining 20 to 25%, we finish by mid-30s. So, and that happens subconsciously or consciously, we build on that. So what it means is 80% of the stuff, or even maybe more stuff that we use today in our life, all came in through subconscious, through what other people told us, because we had no say in it. We could not even evaluate what we had learned. Okay? The remainder was built on that. And it could have been a bit conscious, but a lot of it's still unconscious. And we just keep building on what we have learned. Then we are set in our ways. This is how we respond to everything, whatever we encounter. Okay? So how does our conditioning or programming become our reality? So it was Gandhi who said, so let's put it this way. All the beliefs and conditionings are here, okay? It was Gandhi who said, from our beliefs come our thoughts. From our thoughts come our words. From our words come our actions. Our actions continuously become our habits. Our habits become our values. And with these values, it becomes our destiny. So that's how everything that you learned when you were a child comes into the world. Okay? So, how conditioned or dead are we? There was an experiment done in Germany at a Max Planck Institute, and they used functional MRI. These are the big cylinders where there's a small and there's a rolling bed that you lie down, and they make you wear a skull cap with all these electrodes hanging out, and they push you in the MRI. So they did this test there. What they did was they got the volunteers, and they gave the volunteer a small unit, and with one button, and they told the volunteers every 20 seconds to press that button with either the left hand or the right hand, and then they recorded all what they got. What they found was that our decisions are so before the person even pressed the button with the left or the right hand, subconsciously they already knew what button they were going to press, but they became conscious when they went to press it. That's when they thought that they are making the decisions, but the decision was made 7 to 10 seconds earlier by subconscious mind. Now this, for a brain which works amazingly fast, it's huge. It's a big time gap, 10 seconds. So your subconscious mind already knows what you want to do, okay? And that can be scary because, for example, if I'm walking down a street and I see an ice cream store, and my subconscious brain has already told me, already knows that I'm going to stop at that ice cream store. It also knows that even before I decide which flavor I'm going to choose, it knows that I'm going to choose my favorite one, which is either the coconut or the chocolate. That's the decision I make. But it was made 10 seconds earlier. And so what it shows is that our conditioned mind, when we're not paying attention, our subconscious mind, which carries all of our conditioning, starts to act even before we know and makes us follow a certain route. And the thing is, the subconscious mind is about 1,000,000 times more powerful and faster than the conscious thinking. Okay, so before even if you're not conscious, even for a few seconds, if you're not attentive to what you're doing, subconscious mind is already telling you what you need to do, because it has learned from the childhood that these are the things that you like. You always go for these two flavors, that you always walk into an ice cream store, that you always do this. So it knows how we are going to behave. And so as soon as when we don't pay attention, all of a sudden, that's what takes over and makes us do things. Okay, so basically we are sleepwalking because we're not aware of our actions. Why is conditioning such a problem for us? Okay, I just mentioned the one where it takes over our life. Basically, we are not conscious, which means 95, and these are studies that have been done for these things, that 95% of the time we're not even aware of our actions. We're not attentive to what we're doing. That's huge. Then they've also found that 70% or even more of the downloaded programming is disempowering to us, is self-sabotaging, is limiting. Because it is, for example, if you were brought up in a family and where the parents or the father had anger management issues, you would think that anger was a way to react or to react to the world. So you would see the world through that anger. Okay, so that's just one part of it. But there are other things that prevent us from leading our own life, okay, because of all the downloaded programs. Early childhood trauma keeps us entrenched in our conditioned thinking. Again, depends on how our upbringing has been, because if there's a lot of pain, then we're covering the pain, and so we're not attentive. We just let the conditioned mind take over. And when we don't pay attention, we create stress. And what stress does, and I'll show you just now, it keeps us in the survival mode. This one is also interesting, the wired ego, the tech industry. It exploits our conditioning and reinforces it by keeping us perpetually distracted. And again, I'll be talking a bit more on these two items here. So this is the screen of conditioning. This is the essence which we came with. This is the conditioning that we built, as I explained. Most of it was done when we were children. The last little bit was done in the last 20 years, 10, 15 years. So by mid-30s, we already program in a certain way. And so what we do is we are observing the world through other people's eyes. We need to learn to observe through our own eyes, okay? A new perspective, not what we have been told, not what other people have mentioned to us. We need to come out of that, okay? And I'll show you what we need to do. Now, this is an interesting slide. It's what I call the screens of distortion. Think of it this way. Here's our world, the world that we see outside. Because of our conditioning, we only see a portion of it. Why? Because the conditioning splits the world into likes and dislikes, good and bad. I trust and I don't trust. And so what we do is we reinforce the things that we like. We avoid things we don't like or the things we hate. So we just focus on certain things. The effect of internet cuts down even narrows it even further. And what does internet do? It fine-tunes our preferences. And what do I mean by that? By using filter bubbles or echo chambers. Now, filter bubbles are, if you have noticed, if if you look at a newspaper, if an online newspaper, and if this is with most newspapers, if you select, or if you just tend to look at certain kind of news all the time, then you're only going to get that kind of news when you go back. Let me give you an example. So if, let's say in politics, if you're only looking at either conservative views or liberal views, let's say conservative views, then you're only reading that. So the newspaper already starting to know that you only like this kind of news. You're going to avoid everything else. So the next time you open that newspaper, you're only going to get conservative news. So it's only what you like. Okay, so it again narrows your view. Same thing with, and so echo chambers is when we on the internet, when we connect with other people, like-minded people. So we talk about the same stuff, same thing. So it's just echoing whatever we like. Social media, again, it narrows it even further. The news feed that we get, it is tuned to what we like. And the purpose of social media, and again, I'll go into more detail in this one because it's very important, is to keep us distracted. So we never look at anything else, okay? And so here is the little piece that we can see. Instead of the whole world reality, we only see a little bit, and then we think that our view of the world is correct. It's just a viewpoint. It's just a view from a point. And there are billions of people around. They all have views, and they're all different. There may be some similarities, maybe some overlaps if we come from the same environment. For example, if I'm in Canada, so people in Canada might have some similar ideas, not all, but there might be some overlaps. But in essence, everything is different for everyone else. So this is the brain under stress. As I explained earlier, this is the brain model. When we are stressed, so the brain, the amygdala knows when we are under threat, okay? So there are two kinds of threats. One is a real threat. For example, someone chasing you to hurt you, or a dog chasing you, or a wild animal chasing you. Now, these are real threats, okay? And the other threats are perceived threats, the threats created by the worries. You know, the worries, we keep worrying about different things, that things are not even happening, but we keep worrying about it. The brain knows that even this is a threat, okay? So when you have a real threat, what happens? First of all, once the lion brain sees a threat, it disengages. It makes the brain disengages the middle to prefrontal cortex, which connects the whole brain, integrates the whole brain together. It needs to disengage, because it needs the primitive brain, the reptilian brain, the instinct to make us run. Okay, because the thinking brain is slow. So we need the reptilian, the old brain, which just works on instincts to make us run. Okay. But when we are worried, same thing happens. It disengages. But then our worries never end. So we're always stressed. So we're always working with our primitive brains. We never use our human brain, which is what we, to make decisions, creativity inside everything else. But we let go and we use our old brains. Okay. So why is it so difficult to get out of our conditioning? The first thing is we don't know it's a problem. And obviously, if you don't know it's a problem, then you don't do anything about it. The second thing is we believe that our ego conditioned self is who we are. That book that we have created in this world is who we think we are. So why would you even want to let go of this book. That's the one we use to go around in the world. That's the virtual reality. That's a virtual world ego that you have created in the mind. Okay, so we think that's real. Okay, the subconscious programs operate just below the conscious brain, conscious mind. So we're not even aware of the impact that it has on our lives until you hear it. For example, now that you've heard it, now you know what you can do. But again, the choice is up to you. Previously, you didn't know. So you could always admit ignorance. Now you know. So you have a choice. Do you want to do something or not? But you have a choice, knowingly. Okay, then you can make a choice. That I don't care. I'll carry on this way. Or I care. I'm going to do something like this. We talk about stress. It keeps us entrenched in the survival mode of conditioned thinking. Okay? And the wired ego, the tech industry exploits our conditioning and reinforces it by keeping us perpetually distracted. And I'll talk more about it. So here is what I call the mind iceberg. Some of you might have seen this before, but here is our conscious mind, which is about 5%. And here lies all the subconscious mind, which is about 95% of the mind. And the programming lies somewhere up here, just below the surface of the conscious mind. Okay? And so we are not aware of it. If it's a conscious, if it was conscious, then we would be aware that this is what we are doing. But it resides just in the subconscious mind. And so our responses become unconscious and automatic. The wired ego. I'm going to talk a bit more on the social media and the tech companies, because it's something that we need to understand. And this is from the documentary, The Social Dilemma, from Netflix. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it, because I can even say it blew my mind when I saw the kind of things that they were talking about there. So what do? They exploit a vulnerability in our psychology. And why? To know us and predict our behavior. Yeah? That's what they want to know. How are we going to react? They want to keep us in a virtual world, like I talked earlier, using echo chambers and filter bubbles. So we are all always engrossed. Our conditioning gets entrenched. Focus on our negative emotions to hook us, because when we're negative, it's easier to get hold of us, and so to create an unconscious habit to keep us perpetually distracted. Our attention is a product being sold. Many times, in fact, I used to think, and a lot of people used to think, that what they're trying to sell is our information, my data to other people. Why would they want to sell that? They need that, but what they're selling is my attention. If they can tell me where my attention is going to go, they can place a product there. So they've sold it. So the advertisers are paying for that kind of thing. Okay. So the vulnerability in our psychology is our conditioning, our pre-programming, what we just talked about. And why? Because it's easy to predict what we'll do next. We are autopilot. For example, if I ask you, how was your day today? So you say, same old, same old. How's work? Same old, same old. How's your family? Same old, same old. Excuse me, how can it be same old, same old? But that's the way we live our lives, automatic. So we don't even know, we don't even understand and appreciate what we're doing. We're just going. And so once you do that, once you meet someone and you greet the person the same way without even thinking, now it's easy to predict. And if someone is observant, can tell exactly how you're going to react in a particular situation. How are you going to get angry? Okay, or how are you going to get upset? They know, and then they know exactly which buttons to push. For example, again, when my daughter was quite young, she knew exactly what buttons of mine to push and to get me going, until I realized what she was doing. And children are good at that. Many years later, she told me, Dad, you were too easy. She couldn't do that to her mom. Okay, but because I used to do the same thing over, and she knew exactly what I was going to do, how I was going to react to that, and so she was having fun. This is from this author of Psychology of Building Addictive Products. This is what he teaches, how to make products addictive. And so how can they hook us? They know how we feel and what will change those feelings. People like Facebook know when we are depressed because we scroll through, we go in the, we work with Facebook in a certain way so they can pick up exactly how we are feeling. And then they use those feelings to reach us. The most effective hooks are our negative emotions. When we're feeling bored, lonely, confused, fearful, lost, or indecisive. So they can plant some stuff for us so that we can, so we're not bored. So we look at some stuff, look at some videos. They scratch our itch. So once they've given us one cat video, then we're waiting for another one. So we go scrolling around to see if there are more of those. Okay? Thereby leaving us wanting more, creating an addiction. Before the emotion becomes conscious, the behavior is already occurring. And this we just talked about earlier when I talked about how dead we are, because the subconscious mind already knows what you want to do. And emotions are even before the thoughts. So emotionally, once you have made that decision, then you're going to behave in a certain way without even consciously being aware of it. And that's what they're looking for. The lack of conscious awareness is the key to sustaining a hook. As long as you are conditioned and you go on autopilot and you're not paying attention to what you're doing, that's what they love. That's what they're looking for. Again, the same author, when you're feeling uncertain, before you ask why you're uncertain, you Google. When you're lonely, you go, before you even become conscious of it, of the feeling, you go to Facebook. Before even you know you're bored, subconsciously you already know that this is what you're going to do. You're already on YouTube. Nothing tells you to do these things. We trigger these ourselves because why? We behave in a certain way. And that's exactly what you're going to do. When we are bored, we're going to do this. We're going to, so that's what they're hoping for. This is what some of the tech strategies have been talking about, the previous ones. The tech industry has become the largest, most standardized and most centralized form of attention control in human history. They are controlling attention. They're controlling us. Okay? Same strategies talks about attention economy incentivizes the design of technologies that grab our attention. Privileges over impulses over intentions, privileging what is sensational or nonce, appealing to our emotion, anger and outrage. And the dynamics of attention economy are structurally set up to undermine the human will. Again, this is from the previous former president of Facebook. Facebook, like other social media, was designed to exploit people's psychological vulnerabilities, which is conditioning. God only knows what it's doing to our children, the children's brains. Facebook, if you heard on the news recently, again, is in the news. I mean, it has been, where the whistleblower is talking to the Congress or Senate about the problems that Facebook is creating for our children, to our democracies. Okay. Now here he's talking about what he's doing to the children's brains. And just to answer the question, this is what this guy is saying. The technology companies are now in the business of designing brains, not just designing software. Okay. Look at the implications of all this. Okay. So this is what happens behind the screen. So example, here is your phone. When you're looking at the phone, behind the screen is all these things are going on. They are, behind the screen, they have banks of computers, artificial intelligence. These computers are in big rooms, underground, underwater, but they just continuously churning away. And then they have engineers, young engineers, all sitting up in Silicon Valley. And this is what the whole purpose is what do you do? How can they predict what you're going to do next. Okay, and that's what they're doing. So even when the engineers are not there, the AI is picking up every key stroke that you do, every scroll you go, everything that you do, it's picking it up and building up an image of you, a virtual image of who you are. Okay, so then they can predict exactly what you're going to do. Now, this is not only Facebook doing it, Google is doing it, all the tech companies are doing it. Okay, so we are pawns, we are kind of robots behind, where they experiment on us. So what they would do is they would come out with a new tool, for example, these are some old tools, but some kind of a smiley face or something, and they put it out there to test how we're going to react to it, and then they would implement it. So it's something like looking at a big spider with all this spider legs. You touch this leg to see how it's going to react, and then it doesn't react the way you want it. Then you're going to do something else, so it reacts the same way, exactly the way you want. And all this while you are scanning through and looking at the wonderful cat videos and looking for the other one, another one. And that's what they're trying to figure out. Now, this is what Carl Jung had said in 1933, okay? The advancement of technology and materialism, now accepted by many to be stresses, would further widen the gap between the conscious and the subconscious. I call it subconscious, call it unconscious mind. As technology and materialism increased, people would spend less and less time cultivating the inner selves. Okay? Now, this was in 1933, 90 years ago, before the supercomputers came about in 1940s, before the internet even came about in 1960s, and before even Facebook became a powerhouse the way it is right now, before it came out in 2007. This is over 90 years ago. Here is Carl Jung telling us these are going to be the problems. So we have now lost control of our minds. The tech companies are telling us what to think, when to think, what to do, by keeping us perpetually distracted and superficial. And now these same companies are also into designing our brains so that they can even tell us how to think. We have now truly become robots controlled by tech companies. And I'm not exaggerating. This is exactly, and there's science behind, the studies behind all these things that I'm talking about, okay? So many of the tech executives, the young people who designed a lot of these platforms, are now in the middle age, in the 30s or whatever, had their own kids. They're finding how addictive the products that they've created. And so they're trying everything possible to kind of walk back, to do things so that, the kids don't go through that. So what are they trying to do? They just put their phones away. As soon as they come into the house, they put the phones away so that they don't get at them, but yet they're finding that they go and pick them up again. Some of the engineers and software engineers try to write their own programs to kind of wean them off this habit. Of course, they try to use the willpower. I'm not going to answer any of the notifications. Some people even found that, even when they were going to bed, 10 o'clock, both partners were on their phones. So they decided that they would put in the internet a timer so that by 10 o'clock, all the internet would go down, so that at least they could spend some time together. Yeah. They have kitchen safes with timers. So every time people come home, people meet for dinner, they have the safe on the side. Everyone puts their phones in, they time it so that after no one can open it for 2 hours. That's what they're trying to do. They're sending the kids to school without internet or smartphone access. This is people who are already doing all these things. Most of us don't even do anything. We don't even know where to start. Okay. Now, why trying to stop this way won't solve the problem? Because what they're trying to do is they're looking at the smartphone or the social media or whatever as a problem out there. It has got to start differently. We've got to look at the problem in a different way. So what's the solution? Before even we can do anything, we have to become aware. Just like I'm talking to you about this, hopefully you become aware of some of the things that we talked about. that our subconscious programming exists, okay? That this conditioning impacts our lives negatively. We have to understand that we lose control of the brain when we are stressed and go into survival mode. And this is what the tech companies are doing and how they're exploiting our conditioning to hijack our minds and keep us in survival mode. So the solution is reclaiming, protecting, and training our attention. This has to become a priority for us if we want to do anything. Again, reclaiming, protecting, and training our attention. If you want to get out of this cycle that we are stuck in, it sometimes feels to me it's like a quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you go. And to break that cycle, you need to take control of your attention. So this is where mindfulness comes in. Okay, so mindfulness, some thoughts. It's about reclaiming, protecting, and training of attention. And I'll say, and I'll explain what I mean. It's the ability to pay attention on what we want and when we want. Okay. It's about becoming present. So you're attentive to what you're doing. It's a foundational building block of everything, of your learning, well-being. You have to pay attention. Without attention, you can't learn. It prevents the mind chatter, over conditioning, and the tech and social media from hijacking. So when we have a mind chatter, it takes attention with it wherever it goes. So we don't have attention with us. Stress affects attention as well. It takes our attention away. And of course, I just talked about the tech companies, and that's what they do. Mindfulness and sitting meditation go together. They work together. Okay, you sit. It's like a lab where you experiment, learn, and then you bring it out into the world, so that so you can work hand in hand. We've heard about present moment. Everyone talks about present moment. So when we are present, we are attentive, we are observing, we are mindful, we are aware, we are meditating. As soon as you are present, you're already meditating. But yes, when you sit in meditation or go into mindfulness, you go deeper into the present moment. But present moment, as soon as you're in the present moment, you're meditating, okay? Because you're focused, you're concentrating, you're paying attention. So attention, as I mentioned earlier, is a product being sold to the advertisers. Without attention, we can't do anything. If you want to get out of this, the loop of conditioned thinking, you need attention. And you have to do something about it. It's powerful, but it's also fragile. It's easily distracted and wanders. The mind chatter takes it away. Social media takes it away. So stress takes it away. So we need to do something about that. It's vulnerable to stress. Where it goes, as I mentioned, the brain follows. The good news is it can be protected and it can be trained. It's a subset of our awareness. So what do I mean by awareness? Attention is like a spotlight. Awareness is like a lantern. So if you're walking with a lantern, it throws light all over the place. So even when you're aware of everything. But sometimes you need to pay attention to what you're doing. So it becomes like a spotlight. So attention is a spotlight. It just focuses on a small thing. But it's the same. The base is the same. Attention, awareness, they're both the same. Okay. Awareness is not something you do. It is what you are, who you are. It is our natural state of being, the background on which everything else happens. It is what you came to the world with. It's available to you 24/7. It's there, but we don't know how to access it. It's the deepest dimension of, excuse me, sorry about that. It is the deepest dimension of mind. It connects with the base of that which is the very base of creation. It is the present moment. When you're present moment, you're aware. Studies have shown, and scientifically, that mindfulness can strengthen attention. Mindfulness decreases mind wandering. So, and also become less emotional, less emotional reactive. Because one of the things that most of us have not learned is how to manage our emotions. Because emotions develop first, as I mentioned earlier, for the kids. We never teach the kids how to manage their emotions. So this is something that we can learn. We become less emotionally reactive. It makes us aware. We become present. And the studies have been shown that in as little as 12 minutes a day or 3 to 5 days, mindfulness attention starts becoming stronger. But it's dose dependent, meaning you have to keep doing it regularly. The practice has to be regular. So what is meditation? It will bring about a transformation shift in awareness. A new way of perceiving comes into being. As I mentioned earlier, we're looking at the world through other people's eyes, what we have been told, what they have told us what to do. This gives us a new way of perceiving. It gives back our own eyes, so we can start using our eyes. Krishnamurti, the Indian mystic, said, inward or psychological revolution implies a complete transformation, not only of the conscious mind, but of the unconscious as well. So this is when, once the mind starts to transform, it's completely different from the one, the ego conscious, or the ego self, the ego conscious that we talked about earlier as well. So the purpose of meditation is to penetrate through the cloud of our ego conditioned mind. That's the purpose. It is to make us remember what we came with in this world, of natural state of being. Once we remember, then we need to stabilize it. Because just to remember is fine, but you need to practice so that it stabilizes. And then you can bring this state into everything that you do, everyday state of mind. Okay, so it becomes part of you. That's the purpose of meditation. So the science of meditation. Again, all these things, studies have been shown that meditation does all this. What is it? I'll talk about the wrist structures and integrates the brain. I'll talk a bit more about it. It organizes the mind and overrides our subconscious programming, our conditioning. Okay? That's how powerful it is. It brings about a transformational shift in awareness, a new way of perceiving, new eyes to look at, to look with. And studies have shown that, in effect, the brain, the brain structure starts to change with even 11 hours of practice over 8 weeks. But again, it's dose dependent. You have to keep doing it to maintain it. Okay? And the rate of change depends on the kind of thoughts we think of every day. So if you have negative thoughts, it prevents us. It kind of makes the process a bit slower for us. When I talk about meditation restructures and integrates the brain, so as I talked earlier, this is the brain, and the neocortex, our new brain, has to connect with all the other brains, so you can control it, and so that's the way it integrates. When it's not controlled, when it's disengaged, it's not controlled. That's when we are in survival mode. That's when the primitive brains take over. Okay, so what does the meditation do? It synchronizes the left and the right brain. Most of us are focused, are very left-minded, rational-minded, logical-minded. Few are creative, but we need to bring a balance to that, okay? Not just one side or the other side. We need both the hemispheres. And it's interesting that when we bring both together, the sum is more than the parts, okay? So it becomes much more powerful. It integrates all the sub-brains. So when the neocortex or our brain, the human brain, connects to the palm of here, it's connecting to all the other brains. So it controls the primitive brains. So primitive brains do what the human brain wants, not independently doing, controlling, making us go on autopilot. It shrinks the amygdala. This is the one that looks at all the threats, but with continuous worrying, it becomes oversensitive. So any little thing, and we start panicking or going into survival. So it starts to make it less sensitive. It increases the thickness of this prefrontal cortex up here, the human brain, so it stays engaged. And again, we have to do this dose dependent. The more you do it, the stronger the connection becomes. And then once the connection becomes solid, the whole brain becomes coherent, optimized, and high functioning. How does the meditation organize the mind? Right now, most of us are with a me state of mind. It's it's a survival mind. It's only me. When I say me, it doesn't mean only me personally. It means me, my family, my kind of people, my country, and all that. So it expands outwards. But with meditation, it now becomes you become present. Okay. So the ripple effect of meditation. Why do I call it a ripple effect? When you throw a pebble into water, and you can see the ripples expanding out. Okay? In the same way, the effect of meditation, it ripples outwards. The more you are able to make that the state of mind much more stable, and you're able to bring it out to the present, to your everyday life, then the effects of meditation really kick in. But they also come in kind of small. As you start to practice, you start to see small changes. So we talk about switches the mindset from me to the present moment awareness. So you're completely present. You're not on autopilot. Again, it doesn't happen instantly. It takes a while. It increases our resilience. So we recover quite fast from stress and adversities. So when you're stressed, everything. So when you're stressed, the brain reacts that, but we're able to recover very fast. We don't stay in that stress condition. It builds our emotional intelligence, which is, we talked about how to manage our emotions. It rewires our brain for happiness. It slows the aging process. Okay, it builds the cortex, the cortical brain up here. It starts to thin as we age. But what studies have shown that the aging process is slowed down with meditation. Increases our ability to manage uncertainty, because no one can tell exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. But when you're present, then you go step by step, and then uncertainty doesn't become a problem, because you're dealing with what's in front of you. You're not thinking of, not getting overwhelmed of what's going to happen tomorrow. Increases our power of observation and attention. This is what we talked about earlier. It increases our gamma oscillations, engaging the whole brain. Now, this is something new that they've discovered in the last few years. And again, they discovered this by hooking up Tibetan monks to these EEGs to see their brain activity. And what they found is that they had found gamma brain waves, which up to now they had not even known that they existed. But with long-time meditators, this was the natural state of being. They were operating from a very, very high brain waves, and the whole brain was engaged in whatever they were doing. Okay. Now, so the three simple mindfulness practices that I want to leave you with. To reclaim, there's a practice called stop. To protect, baseline of happiness. To train is to focus. Stop stands for stop, take a deep breath, observe, and proceed. This is one of the most powerful practice that I've found. It's not my practice. I learned it from someone else, but I've modified it. And one of the things that this practice does is, as I mentioned earlier, we are on autopilot. Many times we're not paying attention. But during the day, if you just stop, and as soon as you say stop, you're breaking the chain of doing things unconsciously. Now you're present because you stop. Now your attention is here. With the attention here, you take a few deep breaths. As soon as you start taking deep breaths, now you're going deeper into the present moment. Okay, you have stopped that unconscious way of doing things. Now you are present. Now you're attentive. Then you observe your mind. How does it feel? How's the body? If it's still tense or rigid, take a few more deep breaths. Go even deeper. Now you can proceed. Keep doing the same thing or change course. But now you're doing it from within, and it's not an automatic process. And do this thing during the day. And they found that just 2-minute break changes and affects the brain in ways that it's hard to even imagine. Okay, so keep doing this through the day, every few minutes or every half an hour or something, until you get into the habit, and it will help you break that conditioning, that condition that we are on. Okay, baseline of happiness. When I say baseline of happiness, there is a term, something that they use in neuroscience. They've come up with the concept of Velcro and Teflon. And what that means is, what they're saying is that our brain is Velcro for negative information and Teflon for anything positive or good. So negative things stick, and the positive things, good things that happen, good experiences bounce off as Teflon. And the reason why this is so is because of survival. Because in survival, we had to make sure that we had to keep our eyes open to see hopefully there were any threats or anything around. So we were always looking for something negative, and that's why it gets stuck. What I want you to do is to switch them around. So make Velcro, make Teflon for negative information, and Velcro for positive information. Okay. So what happens is, it doesn't mean that you don't look at the news and say it's negative, so do you avoid them? No, but you don't let them stick in your brain. Let them bounce off. But every time you have a good experience, a positive experience, for example, you're playing with your dog, and that the joy, extend it. Stay with it a bit longer. Okay, make it like a Velcro, or you're watching a sunset. Okay, good experiences. So that will increase, will help you with your attention as well. Okay. The last one is focus attention. Okay, to strengthen, to train your attention. These are 4 steps. Okay, so what we do is, if you want, why don't you just close your eyes for a few moments, and just notice your breath. Pay attention to your breath. Observe your breath. Don't breathe deeply or whatever. Just keep your attention on your breath. And if you notice that the attention moves away with the mind chatter, gently bring it back. Again, just observe. Pay attention to the breath. And again, just keep doing that over and over again. And what that does is that, you can open your eyes now. What that does is, as attention moves away, you bring it gently back, over and over again. And so what you're doing is you're training the attention. Okay? These are 2 quotes that I want to leave you with. Yesterday, this is by Rumi. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. That's the beginning of transformation. And once we go through the transformation, then we become a partner of creation rather than a prisoner of creation. Okay, this was from Thomas Cleary. Most of the information is from my book. So if you hear some information about myself, my website. And so now I'm opening it up for question and answer. So Umesh.
Thank you so much, Aziz. Thank you for this very informative and interesting session on the science and the power of meditation. So we have now got a Q&A session. If anyone's got any questions, please put them in the chat, and I will ask Aziz to to answer those questions. Whilst we're waiting for questions. I just really also want to mention that Aziz, you and I are doing another session on 7th of November, and it's titled Meditation Made Simple.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
a follow up to this session, and more
It will.
details will be sent out in due course.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Aziz, we got first question. Could you please re-show the book slide? It was only on for a second. The book slide.
The book slide, sure. There you are. Let me get out of the way. Okay.
Thank you for that, Aziz, and thank you, David. Yeah, lots of positive feedback coming through, Aziz.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If there's any questions, please type them in the chat, and Aziz will answer them.
Yes, Aziz, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Who is this?
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you.
That's the only thing I'm going to say.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Definitely. Was very, very interesting. Thanks, Umesh.
Thank you.
Keep it
Thanks
back.
a lot.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thanks.
I'll see you next on 7th of November.
7th of November.
Yes, sir.
I'll send the details out again. It's
you.
Meditation Made Simple.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, I've got a question here. Is there a particular meditation style to start with?
You know, there are many things, but the simplest way would be just paying attention to your breath, making it deeper. That's the simplest way that I've come across. And there, of course, many different ways. Many people do different things, but to start off, you just use your conscious breath, and you go take a deep breath, hold for as long as it's comfortable, then exhale slowly, and then after a couple of moments, again repeat the cycle until you settle down. And one of the things maybe I can mention up here, which I'll be talking about even in the future, is think of the sea and the waves, the mind chatter as the waves in the ocean. Just like when you try to swim in the ocean through the waves, it's very difficult. You need a lot of energy, and of course the waves will throw you all over the place. Same way, the mind chatter is going to take you all over the place. But when you're out in the ocean, if you take a deep breath and you swim under the waves, it's quiet there. So that means you can now swim wherever you want to go with less energy. It's the same thing with the mind chatter. If you take a few conscious breaths, you will sink underneath the mind chatter. That's where the awareness is, the one we talked about. Okay, and so the easiest way to start off is just becoming conscious of your breath. It's the most powerful thing that you can do.
Thank you for that, Aziz. We've got another question, and very interesting question too. Is there any way to rewire the brain from trauma?
Yes, there is. There definitely is, and the best way is through mindfulness and meditation. And you're right, because what trauma does to a child's brain, it affects, as I mentioned to you about the prefrontal cortex, the human brain. So the child's brain is still developing. The alligator and the lion brain are functional, but the other brains are developing. And this brain here, the human brain, develops a bit slowly. And so what happens is when there's trauma, it affects the development of this brain. it delays the development. And so what happens is that the child has a difficulty responding to things because of the trauma or the pain that he or she is going through. And so what we need to do now, and that, so if you compare the brain of a child who has gone through trauma or in the brain of a child who hasn't, there's a marked difference. So the way everything that I've studied, and I've done it for myself as well, because I've gone through my own challenges in life. And it is by meditation, by mindfulness. The more you start to pay attention, the stronger your new brain is going to become. And conscious breath will instantly hold it, close that, and start working on the neurons. The problem is that we tend to forget about conscious breath and we kind of give up on it. But if you continuously just do it, conscious breath through the day, just be observant. That's the beginning of working on your brain after a trauma.
Thank you for that.
Ramesh, I have a question to ask.
Sure.
I think,
Sorry.
you know, the thumb that you have asked us how to control our stress.
Yeah.
How long do we keep this thumb on?
Sorry, I didn't. Was it the one I was talking about?
Yeah.
No. So what I'm showing up here is just a simple demonstration of our brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how
So-
long do we keep it on?
No, you don't have to. So that at least so that you know how the brains function.
Okay.
But once you know how the brains function, then it's easier to do something about it, because then you know which of the brains is in control. Okay.
Okay.
So because if you are not in control, then it's your alligator brain. When the alligator brain is in control, then it's reactive. It's the only purpose is to survive. It's only about me. Forget about everyone else. It's full of envy, jealousy, everything else. So that's what I'm trying to show, that if, just to give you a simple idea of how the brain works. Okay, so it's not something that you have to hold or not, just to give you an idea so that you can work on yourself and with a conscious breath, make sure that the brain is engaged. Okay.
I've just had recently glioma, so I've come out of it now from MRI and everything. So I just wanted to know how to control the brain from the left side.
I would not, because I don't have a medical background, so I can't talk much about it. But again, what I've found is the conscious. See, when we take conscious breaths, we move from the left to the right. The left is what I call the noisy brain, with the mind chatter. The right is the quiet brain. So because now it has connections to your subconscious mind. Okay. So with the conscious breath, you can move, but the medical, I can't answer in terms of the medical issue that you have and how to solve that. But try conscious breaths. Okay.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank you.
Thank
Aziz, we've got another question. So again, I think very interesting question. How does one stop getting bogged down with past memories, which become incredibly pronounced with detail as you try to focus on nothing?
The best way is, I explained earlier, was think of it as memories, mind chatter, as the waves. The easiest way and the fastest way is to take a few conscious breaths and you sink underneath. So even if the memories are bothering you or the mind chatter is bothering you, when you sink below, that's quiet. And once it's quiet, the memory is not there. As soon as the memory comes in here, then you've lost that attention. Then you're back into the mind chatter. Okay, so once you, and this is, I'm giving a very quick thing, but when you sit in meditation, when you after a while, a time will come when you just close your eyes and you'll be able to sink in. And I'll be talking a lot more in the next presentation of exactly how the components. I've broken meditation into different components. I talk about start off with basically a beginner's mind. How do you start when you sit for a meditation? Then I talk about the process of relaxation. So that's where I bring in the brain waves and how we can relax. The third one is about a technique. Okay, whether we use conscious breath. People can use different things. People use a candle or anything. Then we talk about awareness and other stuff. I bring everything together and show you how meditation comes together. Okay.
Thank you, Aziz. I've got another question, quite interesting actually. So, as you know, these sessions are recorded, and the recording is sent out. If anybody wants it, then please obviously let me know in the chat what your number is, WhatsApp number, and I'll forward it to you. But this interesting question is, somebody wants to show the recording to a 19-year-old who the 19-year-old thinks he knows it all, as most 19-year-olds do, and they do not need to know anything about meditation. So how does one convince a youngster that this is worth a watch?
So it's interesting because I knew a friend of mine, his son came back from university, he was, I think, about 20. And he came back and he was not well. He was feeling, his condition was not that great. So they took him to the hospital. And what the father thought that the son must have mixed drugs and alcohol. So he was not feeling well. So at the hospital, they told him that he was hyperventilating. Okay, must be just overly stressed. And since the father knew that I was into mindfulness and all that, he asked me, would you talk to him? Now, you're right. How would you talk to a 19 or 20-year-old about meditation? So I broke it down into components, which I'm going to discuss next time with in the thing. But basically, what I told him was, he was there for about a week during his break from university. So we had about 6-7 days. So we went into a room. I said, put your smartphone, everything outside the room, whatever. Let's just sit. And then I took him through the 5 components. And by the time he left, he was meditating. So and again, because I showed him scientifically, basically, what he needed to do by component. So I didn't overwhelm him, but I told him, okay, let's just sit in silence. For example, what is the beginner's mind? What is the process of relaxation? So what happens when we close our eyes? Okay. And how do the brain waves work? Okay. Then I said, okay, let's sit in inside. Let's see what the conscious brain is doing. Okay. And the conscious breath is doing. And then talked about a couple of other things. Bring it together, and he was meditating. So yes, there is a way of doing it. And maybe I can send you the 5 components, or when I talk on November 7th, she can use that as something that she can talk to her son about.
Perfect. That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, because
thanks for that.
there'll be the whole video, and I'll be talking about, and I'll show you what you can do and how you can go about meditating. Yeah.
Great. Let me see if there are any other questions. For those who have requested the video, the recording, I will send it to you. Thanks for sending your number. I will WhatsApp it to you. Thank you. I don't think there's any other questions. That's it. What time is it? It's 3:20 as well. So I think we'll call it a day at that point in time, or call it a morning at that point in time in your case. Thank you so much, Aziz. The 7th of November session, I will send the details out again. It's not going to be on the same link. There will be a different link that will be sent out. It will be via Zoom as well. And again, if you need information on that, please send me your telephone number, your WhatsApp telephone number, or you can email me on uaks.events@gmail.com, and I will make sure that you are on the mailing list for that as well. Apart from that, Aziz, thank you so much. Very, very informative and really an interesting topic. Thank you so much. And I'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me. And thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Very much. Excellent presentation. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. I think that's it, Aziz. I'm going to